Hi, my name is Dannish Odongo. I am a journalist and a storyteller based in Nairobi, Kenya. I'm also an author and a founder of an organization called the Wellness Tribe, where our work is to promote holistic wellness in Kenya through research, storytelling, capacity building, and events. But today we are in the streets of Nairobi, talking to individuals to find out their perceptions and their views around mental health. And you're going to be amazed at how many misconceptions we have around mental health. People with mental health cannot work, they cannot dress themselves. Oh, the people who can beat you, they can people who do this. And now, let's see what goes. So, bro, Niaje, what's your name?
My name is Kevin.
My name is Dannish Odongo. I wanted to find out from you, what comes to your mind when you hear the word mental health?
Mental health?
Yeah.
People who have disabilities with mental.
People who have disabilities with mental?
Yeah.
What's a mental disability?
It's a disease that people, it's when he or she hallucinates every time.
Hallucinate every time?
Yeah.
Do I look like I'm sick?
No.
Would you tell I have mental health issues?
No.
Utajuaje mtu akili yake haifanyi vizuri vile anasema?
Ni kwa sababu unaona sasa huyo mtu anafanya tabia queer. Unaona saa nyingine ni kama tuko na mama in our area, tuko na mama ako mental. So sometimes tunaona anatupa vitu, anapiga watu, anafanya vitu queer hivi.
Na unaweza tell mimi kama niko na shida ya akili?
Wewe huna kwa sababu you are speaking well.
Yeah.
Unaniuliza maswali well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. Asante sana. Let me ask you, what comes to your mind when somebody says mental health?
What comes to my mind is someone who cannot take care of themselves, someone who's not independent, someone who's not sound, someone who cannot logically think through something or present themselves.
So what do you do with somebody like that?
I think you need to understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And one of the things I think you need to look into is not confining them to a specific place, because then you're not helping them.
That's not what comes to your mind when you hear the word mental health.
When we hear mental health, well, we think crazy, for starters, like someone is not well in the head. Yeah.
Is that what you think, or that's what everybody else?
That's what most people think. But mental health, I think, is the well-being of your mind, of your mental state. Yeah, according to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do you know if somebody is not mentally okay? How do you know that? What are the symptoms, signs?
The symptoms, they will act out of the norm. They might do things normally other people wouldn't do in normal circumstances. They may be lonely. They isolate themselves. Yeah, those are kind of the symptoms I know.
Monday, 17th December 2018 was supposed to be a normal day, only that it stubbornly refused to conform to my expectations. An impulsive decision made at 3:30 p.m. in a Route 46 Matatu heading to the city center altered the direction of my life dramatically. That's the first chapter of this book, Unbreakable by Dannish Odongo, which is a book about how to overcome life's adversities and obstacles. However, it was inspired by my own mental health breakdown that happened in 2018 December. Of course, it started a long time ago when I was a young kid, but eventually I realized in 2018 that I needed to see a psychiatrist. When I saw a psychiatrist, I discovered a lot more about mental health. And I said, why not write it down? Because I'm a journalist, I'm a writer, why not write it down so that people can actually find this information? Now, this book is easily available for 1,000 Kenyan shillings. You can find it on my timeline. Just go to Dannish Odongo, log into my profiles, you can send me a message, and then I'll deliver this book right where we are. And today has been extremely exciting that we've walked in the streets of Nairobi, hearing the opinions and perceptions of people about mental health. We've heard the rumors, the lies, the truths, and the half-truths. We're going to have an in-depth conversation about mental health with Catherine Mwangi. Stay tuned, don't change that dial.
Welcome to the program. My name is Catherine Mwangi. Thank you so much for joining us. This is What's Your Story? As I've said before, this program is really just that. You come on here to share your story. One that hopefully inspires people when they watch it, provokes them to want to do better, want to live better, one that gives them solutions based on what you did. Perhaps you overcame something difficult or a challenge, or you're having the best of your time, and it's just sharing what your story is. Mr. Dannish Odongo, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Catherine, for having me here.
It's always good to have you. Your story is powerful, and today we get to have a longer period of time to share it. Feel free to have this incredible orange juice from the Gem Sweets, which is where we are. Okay. So Dannish, mental health, for which you are a very strong advocate. 2018, what happened to you?
Okay, so I think starting from 2018 would be doing a disservice to the story. But however, that was the highlight of it all. Okay. That in 2018, I had a mental health breakdown. It's all out there, it's written, and I basically moved in. I had issues sleeping. It wasn't anything major. When I went to see a psychiatrist, Dr. Frank Njenga, that's when I discovered that there were actually underlying issues. And so I got admitted into a fantastic hospital where I stayed there for a week.
Okay, so pause there. So let's backtrack. So to where it all began. Yes.
So, of course, since I was a kid, people used to tell me that I was different. But I think everyone says that, oh, I'm different. But you don't know really how different you are. Yeah. But I was always, fast. I had a very fast way of doing things. So you used to be called machachari, in school, I was actually, pushed ahead of class, went past my peers. I used to have a lot of emotions, like I was a feeler, like from a very young age, I would feel especially pain and suffering, I would feel this.
So like an empath?
Like an empath, yeah. And of course I'd had issues with sleeping, so sometimes I'd had nightmares, sometimes I'd had insomnia, sometimes I'd oversleep, like they were just, in class, I'd lose interest, haraka, especially in the things I never liked. So, but I never knew that all these things were actually pointing to an underlying issue. And so in 2015, I was employed in a certain organization, and it was a difficult employment, and I think that escalated matters. At the same time, I also fell in love. It was also a bit difficult, and that's now what escalated now the breakdown that happened in 2018 December, which I think is a blessing.
Yeah, right now you can say it's a blessing.
Yes, I knew right then when I got admitted that it was a blessing.
So let's talk about this relationship that now led to the ultimate breakdown. What were the triggers?
So I don't want to dwell on that because people sometimes do not know how to differentiate between my story and how it relates, how it affects other people. You get what I mean? Yeah. But generally, like all relationships, there are problems. It could be, both of you maybe are not compatible, maybe you've not dealt with their issues, a couple of that. But then if you don't deal with those things, you don't solve them, mapema, then it's likely to lead to, a bigger problem. Yes. Yeah.
So then if all relationships we know have challenges and issues, and leo mnaongea kesho hamwongei, leo mna text kesho hamtext, mnachukua simu hamchukui, why did yours take you to that place?
It shouldn't be like that though, and that's the first sign that things are not right. Those, ups and downs are normal, but you don't want to ride a wave every day. I think our human emotions are not built for that. Yes. But for me, I take responsibility for what I did and for mistakes I did, and I've always taken responsibility. But what led me to that place is that I had an underlying mental health problem, which is attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder. That's now what predisposes me to all these other sorts of mental health challenges like depression, anxiety, and many of these things that I may struggle with. However, it's the same ADHD that makes me an empath, and
yeah, it has its positives too. Yeah. So describe that day for us in 2018 December. What happened? What were you feeling?
So in 2018, of course, I'd not slept well for 3 months.
Why?
I think maisha ilikuwa imenikaba core.
Ilikuwaje hiyo maisha?
Like basically, I was doing well because I just quit employment in March that year, and I just joined the civil society organization. I was doing a lot of work around communication consultancy, and I was doing a lot of fantastic work in terms of advocacy and basic research.
You are a star, actually.
So that time I was excited, and then my relationship ended in that July of 2018.
How long had you been together?
Been together for 3 years, and once it ended, that was still fine, but now I did not know that it had been 5 years of a very difficult life, 5 years of a difficult job. It had been a difficult season for me. And so...
Including looking for a job?
No, I wasn't looking for... When I was employed, I was looking for a job.
Yes.
But when I left, I said I never want to go back to employment. I said until my heart heals fully, I do not, even at this point, I don't think I can be employed. I don't think I can be employed. But I don't know that all these things had actually accumulated to that point where they took away my sleep. So that was a sign of anxiety and depression. So this day, I remember very well, I actually woke up to go to a certain NGO called Inuka in Hurlingham. Inuka, I went there to chase my money. I'd said I was going to take a break on the 16th of December to go for Christmas holiday until next year. But then something just told me while I was in a matatu from 46 coming to town, that why don't you pass by Nairobi Hospital?
Just like that?
Just like that. And gut feeling, it's also another gift that ADHD comes with, very perceptive, you know. When I was in Form 1, I had issues with migraines, extreme migraines in high school, especially in the afternoon. So my dad took me to a psychiatrist, so who recommended some medicine. And so I knew that if I have any problem with sleep, insane headaches that are not like malaria related or anything like that, I go to a psychiatrist. So that's how I went to see a psychiatrist.
So you didn't know who you would find? You just went to the psychiatrist office to ask for a psychiatrist, and they told you, sorry, they are off for Christmas.
Yes.
And then?
And then I realized that this Upper Hill Medical Center, went there, and I just went on the directory, the ground floor, and I saw a psychiatrist, third floor. When I walked in, I saw Dr. Frank Jenga. I'd never met him, I did not know him. I was not even interested in this mental health world, I did not know. My family has had mental health issues, but I've never like invested heavily into, you know, man, I think this is the nature of mental health. You only know it when it's personal. I say like, you can't experience love before you fall in love. You can't experience a heartbreak before you have a heartbreak. Neither can you talk about mental health before you go through it yourself. Yeah, so then I went in, really welcomed me. I had insurance card, paid for consultancy, did some psychological tests. And that's how he found out what had been ailing me ever since I was a kid.
Wow. So wait, so Dr. Frank had time for you?
Yes.
A walk-in patient?
He did.
That's amazing.
I think he's very passionate about this area, so yeah, I think so. I think for his age and for the accomplishments he's done, I don't think he needs to be sitting down in a certain clinic doing that kind of.
So it was quite fortunate for you, or divine for you, to just walk in and actually find the guy who would now tell you this is a problem.
It was, yeah.
Thereafter, what happened?
I remember feeling a heavy sense of relief and feeling a sense of okay, I had crazy emotions. I was actually going back home. I was living in Rwaka then, so they'd send me a lot of materials. I was reading them in the bus going home, and I was saying like, oh my goodness, this is who I am. This is who I am. Like every
ticking
symptom,
every box
I was ticking them, and I said, what if I was told this when I was 15 years old? What if I was told when I was 10? What if I was told the first time I went to see a psychiatrist that I had ADHD? Perhaps my life would have been a bit different, of course. But I also realized that the people who find out when they're 80, when they're 70, they have ADHD. So I'm also glad that I found it when I was just 30 years old, you know. So it was exciting, and it's that feeling of, you've always known you're different, but now you know why you're different.
You know why?
Yeah.
What does the DHD stand for? I know A is attention.
Attention deficiency hyperactivity disorder.
Oh, hyperactivity. Yes.
Yeah.
So you saw him, then you were released?
Yes, I saw him, I was released, but then he told me to come back the next day for results. There were some psychological tests that were done. When I came back the next day, that's when he recommended that I go to a place in Lavington for check-in, and I was okay with that. So I went home to call my friend, and I checked into this quiet, serene environment. You did not think it's a hospital. And for the next 6 days, I say the master's scalpel opened my life open, and every part was removed step by step, and they fixed the emotions one by one through counseling and through therapy and through sleeping and through crying and through singing and through drawing and through therapy. And after that I felt like my life had changed.
Describe that process. 6 days, I mean, it's very precise.
Yeah.
So is someone talking to you?
Exactly, so you have like a day, so there are different days. There are art therapy days, there are days you do therapy, group therapy, there are days you see an individual. But that, when I was there, I saw a therapist every day, who has actually since become a very good friend of mine. Okay. Yeah, now we work together with him. Okay. And I think basically what they did, they were just like, ADHD is not the problem. The problem is what it disposes me to, what it predisposes me to. You know, the ability to pick emotions and to be hurt deeply and to feel, because that's the problem with ADHD. I don't have what I call middle ground emotions. I have extreme, either I like or I don't, either I'm happy or I'm not. I don't have I hot or cold. But you know that life is not like that. Life is very, very lukewarm. You need to be lukewarm to go through this life, because if that one, yeah. So that's what they did. So they just dealt with all this, I think, had accumulated a lot of unforgiveness that goes way back. The teachers who said things in primary, I remember them. The people who did things in high school, I remember them. You know, somebody who ignored me, I remember them. Like all those things, the good things, I remember them. Like all those things, I remember them. You know, when you're what like I have, you're like an emotional. Yeah, exactly. So you pick everything and you pick everything, and if you don't watch out, if you don't do emotional hygiene, then you can really be overwhelmed. So I can't. That's why after what I've gone through, I don't really want to make it look like it was a relationship issue or it was a job issue. It was accumulation of many other issues. Of course, initially when I started telling this story, that's what I knew. But you know, as you process your own pain and your own trauma and your own emotions, you realize that this thing goes deeper than you had initially thought. Yeah.
You mentioned emotional hygiene. It's the first time in my life I'm hearing about emotional hygiene. I just know about ile hygiene ya kuwa msafi. So you're saying the emotions need that too?
Yes, the emotions need that, because remember very well that God gave us emotions. So anger, joy, that's how we feel life. That's how we experience life. When somebody does something nice to you, you feel good. But when somebody also hurts you, you feel bad. When somebody belittles you, you feel bad. So all this range of emotions that God has given us, if we do not watch out, we are likely to pick, and negative emotions tend to stick a bit longer.
Why?
I don't know why, but
Dannish, I need you to give me answers.
I can't give you answers.
You have to know why, because you have been, this is your journey.
So I can give you an experience.
Yes.
I mean, I can tell you my story.
Yes.
You know, many of us did not grow up in perfect homes, you know that.
And there's a story about you and your father.
Exactly. So there are people who did not grow up in good, what I'd call them healthy
Majority.
homes. Many of us don't grow up in healthy homes. So what we're accustomed to are pretty much abuse. You know, it's abuse that we're accustomed to. So the brain really, you know, has a way of getting those energies, and the brain has, you know, this ability to attract type of energy that is dominant with it, you know. So you know, if you've not dealt with your trauma, you're likely to attract trauma, and you know, trauma is like,
oh my God, you're speaking powerfully.
Look at what sugar does to, when you're addicted to sugar, when you're addicted to alcohol or to drugs. It kind of alters your brain, and it alters. And there's tons of scientific evidence that shows what trauma does to the body, to the mind, to the brain. And so the way people can be addicted to things, you can be addicted to bad situations. And so you attract, and so, you know, you find yourself. So that's why you need emotional hygiene.
Is that why, now that you say that, I just have a light bulb moment. Is that why you find a woman will date a bad boy after bad boy after bad boy, and you wonder, surely by the fourth one, you should know the signs that this is a bad boy. So it is something that you're attracting.
Very subconscious, exactly. And also, if you've never known better, how will you, assuming that you've never come to Gem Suits here, how do you know that they have a beautiful pool? You need to come here to know. The same way you need to be loved, you need to be cared for, you need to be taken. I mean, somebody needs to nurture you. Somebody needs to show you how to show empathy and compassion. So if you did not grow up in an environment where there was love and that was shown, how are you going to ever fall in love?
How will you even know?
How will you even know that this is love? Perhaps you saw your mom being beaten. Perhaps that's what you know.
That is love to you. Yeah.
Yeah, because
that's what you...
That's what you know. Perhaps you saw your dad, you know, treating you guys coldly, you know. Or most likely you find that because we grew up in environments like this, we know what we don't want, but we know what we want. So I know I don't want a man who's abusive. I know I don't want a man who's broke, but you ask them, so what do you want in a man?
And they're blank because then you haven't experienced it.
Exactly. So that's why we need emotional hygiene to process everything we've gone through, so that we don't become trapped to our stories, our past, and the nightmares we've gone through. Because you're not entirely your nightmares. Neither are you entirely the bad experiences you've gone through. Just because you've not been loved doesn't mean you're not worthy of love.
You're not lovable
You're
either.
not lovable.
Yeah.
I mean, you can love and you can be loved, you know. But if the only lens you judge everything is the lens of that pain you've gone through, then rarely would you ever enjoy life. And I was like that too. I don't want to lie to you. I'd gone through, some horrible experiences. And, it's normal. I've made peace with those things.
Yes.
So now this therapy is now what processed all that. And I started now I went back, and now even my writing, when I was writing my book, that book was a bit of therapy. So I went back to my life to try to find out, for example, I can give you a story.
Hold on. Don't lose that thought. We take a break. We come back. You want to come back for that story in a bit. And welcome back from the break. We have Dannish Odongo, who is giving us some mind-blowing revelations about how we attract what is subconsciously in ourselves. So if you grew up in a beautiful home, you are blessed. God bless you. Thank God every day for that. You don't have to deal with so many issues. But if you grew up, like majority of us, in broken families, then we have a lot that we need to weed out.
Exactly.
Yes, so tell me the story.
I'll tell you the story. So I've talked a lot about my dad.
Yes.
But also it's through emotional hygiene that I realized, and I asked, you can ask any man. So the stories you know about your dad, who told you those stories?
Hold on, let me call for you a man. Pick for me one of them here so that we do this practically. And you see they're hiding.
Tell me the many things you know about your dad, or even a woman is fine, a woman, the many things you know about your dad.
Millicent, the producer, you're here.
What influenced your opinion about your dad, mostly?
Treated me. How he treated me.
How he treated you.
Yeah, and how I see him behave around me.
How you see him behave around you. And you?
Simpson, as she said.
Which is?
The way he treats you and how he conducts himself.
How he conducts himself. This is interesting because everywhere else I've asked, people tell me that it's my mother who influenced how I see my father.
That's me. You should have asked me the question.
Exactly.
I'm seated right here.
So you're the one who actually went and said, you asked them.
No, because
So
you said a man and the men are here.
Anybody, the opinion you have of your father.
It's actually very divided because there's like Stanley and Millicent have said, how he conducted himself in our presence. So obviously how I see that and interpret that. But as I've grown older, so because I no longer live with them, so now it's what my mother says. You get, so it's the things my mother says about him that I hear more, and I tend to believe because I'm not in the same house anymore. I long moved out of there.
But if you find many people who grew up in homes where fathers went to work, like
Yes.
I grew up in home, the most opinion I have about my father was from my mother.
Yes.
But that's extremely flawed because how my mother relates with my father, they are relating as a lover. As lovers.
Or even frenemies.
As frenemies. But for me, he's my father. And how I relate with him is different.
Yes.
But you find that many, especially, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, you find that many mothers who perhaps had a lot of unforgiveness against their husbands, they transferred all that to their children.
Yes.
So you find children are growing up with a lot of unforgiveness against their fathers. So when you sit with your father and ask him, why did this happen? And you hear the story you were told by your mother, worlds apart. Why did you do this? The narrative you're given by your mother, worlds apart. When this happens, and that is going on right now, so you find that many women are growing up with a lot of bitterness against fathers, and these fathers are actually innocent. It's just that they had beef with the wife, and that beef was transferred from the wife to the children.
100%.
Exactly, and the same with men. So these daddy issues we keep on talking about. Perhaps we need to talk more about mommy issues.
Sips your juice, eh? I thought you sips juice. No, eat your fruit. No, you are hitting it completely, and if I can also be vulnerable enough to say, that's exactly my story. So I had to get to a point where I had to meet with my dad in a restaurant in town and say, okay, what's been going on? Why is mom saying this? And you find he has a completely different story to tell. And so you're there, you're in the middle.
Exactly.
So you realize your parents, your mother puts me and my siblings in the middle.
Yeah.
And you have to bend towards her side.
Yeah, exactly.
sababu usipo ni shida.
Plus they're very persuasive.
Yes.
And they're very manipulative.
Yeah.
Very manipulative.
We should end the show at this point. So it is actually mommy issues. It's not daddy issues.
There are daddy issues, but there are also a lot of mommy issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's that thing of, yeah, you're right, because they unleash that on the kids. And if, and so, because you see, for me, like, I like clarity in my life. And so I had the opportunity to have that conversation with my dad, and it's ongoing conversations anyway. They don't stop. Because every time you hear something, you're like, okay, really? So I have to pick up the phone, get an appointment. We meet somewhere, because you can't even meet at home, you know? You can't meet at home. So you meet somewhere and say, okay, now what is going on?
Exactly. So what that's now emotional hygiene. I also did that for 5 years. I went home, sat with my dad, asked him, so you were retrenched from the Kenya police. What happened? The version of the story we were given was entirely different. And I went on and on and on and on many things that had caused me a lot of pain. And when I was done, I realized that my father is imperfect, just like my mother is imperfect. Yeah. But this idea of painting him as the devil, yes, he did things that are not right. But my mother also did things that are not right. And that's the story of many homes, that mothers are imperfect, fathers are imperfect. But we only hear the stories of imperfect fathers. We rarely hear stories of imperfect mothers. So we need to hear both stories, then it is complete, so that people find healing. And healing is what now happens with emotional hygiene. When you process your emotions, and you go back and you find out really what triggered those things, then you become a different person and you become better.
You know, like my sister said to my mom, I wasn't there when the two of you are getting together.
Exactly.
Stop involving us in your problems. As in, we got to that point. Like, me, was I born when you guys were getting together? Nah. So you deal with your problems, leave us out of it, because now the siblings start to have to take sides.
Exactly.
And then we start to also fight. Yeah.
And you carry all that into your family when you get married.
God forbid.
And it's a cycle that continues. Broken children born out of broken homes. And broken homes keep on breaking communities. And broken communities break nations. And a broken nation leads to a broken world. And a broken world is susceptible to pain. And so pain, dictators can rule and reign. And abuse can happen. And poverty can be entrenched. And it becomes a cycle and a cycle and a cycle. And now what do governments do? Governments say, we're going to build you an SGR, this trillion amount of money, or we're going to build you an overpass, this and this and that. But what people really do need is to heal. Is to heal from emotions, is to heal from their pain, so that they see clearly. I say this example: if you find gold in a pit latrine and you're told there's gold there, would you pick that gold?
No.
You don't pick gold.
I won't go to no pit latrine to pick no gold. I'm sorry.
Then you're different.
I would pick Hebron, you would pick it.
Why would you pick it? Because the value of gold is not determined by its environment.
Pit latrine, you give me another example. Even give me a swamp. A pit latrine.
But a swamp, anybody can go to a swamp. Anybody can go to a swamp. People go to length. I'm just saying basically that, and this is a graphical representation of who we are. Human beings are captured by many things, and they may represent swamps and pit latrines and horrible situations and sewage and everything. But the inherent value of a human being doesn't change based on the environment they are in.
Can we just pause and clap for you? Because what else can we do now?
Yeah, what you need to do is to tell these people now, what now emotional pain does, it blinds you. And so you regurgitate the same nonsense of the environment you're in. So you say, I'm unworthy, I'm hopeless, I can't make it, I'm from a poor home. All those are trauma you're repeating against yourself. But if you heal people and then they see that, oh, I'm actually bright, oh, I'm actually talented, oh, I'm like that. So if we heal emotions, we will heal this country. Period. If we heal emotions, and that's why mental health is bigger than disease. It's bigger than this disease model, because I also have a problem with how psychiatrists have, and they're doing an amazing job, because a while back, we're not talking about mental health. So everybody was, but now we need to go beyond the medical model and talk about the social determinants of mental health, and talk about mental health as an integral part of the well-being of a nation. And let me tell you the truth. Last year, we registered an organization. I registered a foundation in November last year called the Wellness Tribe. That's exactly what we're going to do. We now have a foundation that our primary work is to change the country by talking about wellness through storytelling, through research, through capacity building, and through events. Let me tell you about storytelling. So we have a podcast. Right now I'm doing a series called Just a Man, where I'm talking to men who are raising special needs children, men who are doing this. I'm doing up to 13th episode. But I also want to talk to women who perhaps single women at their late age. I want to find out how does that feel like. But my hope and my prayer
Have me
is
as a
that
guest.
I will have you as a guest. My prayer is this, that then we bring all these stories to the limelight to talk about mental health, not as a disease. You don't have to be depressed, have a psychiatric condition to need a mental health intervention. What you need is actually to take care of your emotional health. When you do that, you thrive and you grow. Another thing we're doing is research. Right now, I'm extremely interested in finding out the emotional state of the country. You know, there's Tanga Tanga and there's Kieleweke. And you know very well about what's going on with issues of petrol and stuff like that. Yeah. So we need to ask people, how does that make you feel? Does it make you feel angry? Are you resentful? Are you disappointed? And then we take this to the government. Because perhaps the government needs to start listening to emotions. These things they are doing, how does it affect the emotional need of a country? Because it's the emotional health of a country that ultimately can tell you whether a country is developed or not. Because you can build all these roads, but if people are unhappy on those roads, if they are depressed on those roads, if they are resentful on those roads,
they'll kill themselves on those roads.
They'll kill them, but then there's a disease burden, because if people are unhappy for too long, there's a disease burden, because then you become susceptible. Remember very well, the number one thing that suppresses your immunity is stress. So then now you're susceptible to malaria. Who will pay money for malaria? So the government will go and look for money from donors to support malaria programs. Oh, and then there's HIV, and then there's TB, and then there's all these opportunistic diseases. And then the government will now go ahead and build big hospitals for mental health. Well, you can solve it by making and building a happy nation.
My God.
You remove problems by half if you focus on the happiness of a country. That's what we want to do as an organization.
And everything starts from where you said, that family unit.
Exactly.
That builds into, you really did a nice build up there that leads, that got us up until the nation status, and now we're having to deal with things at this national level, and you find how people fight on social media, and you're like, is this person okay? We are getting into that hot political season, and you can already start to see the tensions.
Even our leaders, let me break this news to you. Some of our leaders are dealing with crazy trauma. You know their stories, you know what they've gone through. Have they processed those traumas? What if that's what's driving them? To prove to people that I am able, to prove to, imaginary father who never believed in me that I'm able. And now you are holding a whole country ransom because of your trauma. Or you grew up in lack, and so you just want to accumulate and accumulate and accumulate and accumulate. And you wonder if you're building the Tower of Babel of wealth. But if perhaps we just told that you are enough, you don't need wealth and power to feel like a man, you're enough. Perhaps they just need to be hugged and to be loved and to be told you are enough and you're complete. Maybe we'll stop them on their own tracks before they take the whole country down with them. And that's I'm just telling you how it starts. It starts with Odongo, who hasn't processed his emotional pain. Odongo goes and vies in Nyando like I will. Odongo wins Nyando.
You're planning to vie?
I will vie. Odongo wins Nyando. Odongo comes to parliament. Odongo works, becomes the Kisumu governor. Odongo works hard, becomes president, God willing. Odongo has not processed all his emotions. So Odongo carries all this baggage. The heartbreak in class 1, not class 1, class 6. Class 1 is too early, in class 6.
Like, you remember class 1?
Class
Who
6,
does?
Class 6.
Yes.
You remember very well the teacher who did not tell you something right. And you remember that girl who perhaps ignored you because you were poor. You remember the first, this happened in high school. And all through you go to that employer who did not appreciate you, and then you carry all this trauma. And now you have all the instruments of power. What will you do with those instruments of power?
You're dangerous.
Exactly.
You're dangerous.
Exactly. That's why this country is toxic.
Yeah.
That's why this country is toxic. We cannot talk about politics without personalities, without pain, without trauma, and these politicians know very well that this country is so traumatized that the only way to keep us beholden to them is to trigger the traumas. Trigger the trauma, trigger the displacements, trigger the marginalization by the government, always remind people what they've gone through, but never tell them that heal from it, heal from the displacements, heal from the marginalization, heal from the massacres, heal from all these things. They never do that.
What was your healing process like?
Let me tell you, my healing process was like, and I'm very descriptive, it's like somebody went in with a shovel into my life and they scooped out dirt. And with one scoop, one shovel, at a go, I felt lighter, I felt clearer, I felt happier, I felt content, I felt complete. I'm not yet done with my healing journey because you can never really truly heal from these things. Some of them you're just gonna have to learn to live with.
Yeah.
But the clarity I got, right now I can stand and tell you that if you're not treating me right, I don't need you in my life. It doesn't matter who you are. You may be the President of the Republic of Kenya, but I have no time to allow for abuse in my life because of what I've gone through.
And because you also know what abuse looks like.
I know what it looks like. And so I'm not accepting that. Another thing, I also had this hero syndrome in our home because I'd always been hyped by my folks that I was gifted and talented. I said, no, I am no hero whatsoever. I am just Odongo who's pursuing two things, happiness and experiences. That's all I'm pursuing. I'm not gonna save anybody. I'm not gonna save anybody, not my mom, not my dad, not my folks, not anybody. I'm not gonna save them, you know. So that gave me the freedom to pursue the thing that sets my soul on fire.
I love it, to pursue the things that set your soul on fire.
Exactly.
Love it.
The biggest thing that happened to me is that I stopped caring about opinions of people. I don't. I don't. Oh, you think I'm not married at this age and so that's a bad thing?
Even here, who is married? Who is not married here? Oti, you're sure you're not married?
Well, him, if he's called Oti,
Are you getting
he knows very well what it means not to be married in Luoland when you're 25.
Okay.
25.
You need to be married by 25?
25, you're late.
In Lowland?
You're very late.
Is it? Okay, he's only, is that true, Millicent? Wow. So in Lowland, I would be what, like a great-grandmother?
If you're not married, it's a problem.
Yeah.
It's a big problem.
Is it?
It is. Societal, you cannot be a leader, you cannot do anything.
Because you don't have a partner. Amazing. And this applies for both men and women?
The most interesting thing is that it doesn't matter whether you are in an abusive marriage. Them, they want you to be married. They're not asking you, do you want to be happily married? No, they just want you to be married. So they don't really care whether you are happy or you are cheating on your wife, you know, being beaten or beating her, all those things going through, they don't care, they just want you to be married. They want you to take that societal box. So that's also freed me. I realized that I'm different, and being different means that I'm a square peg in a round hole, and it means that I may see things slightly different. It means I may process things slightly different, and it's okay. God made me like that. And there are many people, and when I started this journey, I met many of my tribesmen. They are not Luo, they are not Kikuyu, they are spread across the world. People who are different, who see the world differently. And guess what? They are the pioneers, they are the innovators, they are the change makers. They're the ones who invent, they're the ones who create music and beauty, they're the ones who do groundbreaking work. Because we are so tired of normal things, we are so tired of seeing things in a normal way, because it's normal people who have ruined this world. It's normal people who have ruined this world. But abnormal people are the ones who are fixing it, we're the ones who are doing tech. Now, let me ask you, these questions I'm asking, is there anybody out here, of course I know psychologists and everybody else asking these questions, but mainstream, are there people who are asking these questions about happiness? Nobody's rethinking them.
It's not your ordinary conversation.
Not your ordinary conversation, because I am abnormal and I'm okay with that. For a very long time I felt like I needed to fit in. I felt like I was talented, yes, but there were areas around me that I needed to change. Maybe I was too bold, maybe I was too courageous. Why was I different? Born in a small village in Kano called Ongechi. Why are you dreaming of all these things you're dreaming? What makes you have the audacity to think you can change the world? Why are you always restless? Why can't you just settle down and own a goat, grass-thatched house, and one frustrated wife with 6 children?
You want 6?
That's the hallmark, you know.
That's the hallmark.
So you're 30, but you look like you're 50 and you feel like you're 80.
There's what you are, what you look like, and what you feel like. Wow. So the organization that you set last year, how are people a part of it? How have you made it a community-based so like now you said you're having conversations about men. How are men coming together to have these conversations with you?
So we have something called the School of Wellness. So the School of Wellness, we've come up with a curriculum that takes people on an introduction to wellness and why wellness matters.
So people register in this school?
Register in this school, and we have trainers, and we've done that. That's one way of doing that. So we've developed program for men, we have program for single mothers, we have program for something called Lifeline. Lifeline is for children who are raised in single families. It's called Lifeline, and such kind of programs. But also we have something called the Unplug Fest. The Unplug Fest, we did the first edition in November, where we brought together a festival, but for wellness, where we had music and we had beauty, but we had games. When you walked in there, everything was pointing out towards wellness. And once COVID lifts, we're going to do a bigger and a better version of it. But also we have something called Campfire. So the Campfire is how we tell the stories. So we've partnered with many storytellers, including Akina Biko Zulu and all that. So what we're going, once COVID lifts, we're going to turn this podcast into now a physical story. We want to take men into, say, Naivasha, and just have the fire and talk. And the good thing with our activities, that they are non-alcoholic. I mean, they're alcohol and drug-free. So we don't encourage that. Yes. And we just want to talk. And we want to do that for women. And we want to do that across the country. We want to do that every part. But all of that will be driven by research. Yes. We want to find out the needs of men so that we're not doing things like we've always done in this country where I feel the Holy Spirit leading me. It's good, the Holy Spirit leading you, but can you find out? So that then you don't start out.
I hear you. So how can people be a part of that? Like if you want to register into that School of Wellness?
So now the School of Wellness hasn't been launched yet, but I'm just telling you what we've developed. But so far we have a website called wellnesstribe.or.ke.
Wellness Tribe.
Wellnesstribe.or.ke. You can go there and subscribe and we'll reach out to you. Okay. We already have a whole tribe, and it's a tribe of warmth, it's a tribe of empathy, a tribe of compassion. It's a tribe that your weirdness would not be used against you, or will not be. We actually celebrate it there. Yeah. We celebrate the weird, the round pegs in square holes. Yes. We celebrate the outspoken.
So that time when we last talked, you were still on medication?
Yes, I was still on medication.
Okay. Yeah. And how is that now?
Medication will not stop for me, because now, but right now I'm trying other methods. Okay. But I still think there's a place for medication, especially for me, of course, who was like a neurodevelopmental disorder. It's not something that will ever heal. ADHD doesn't heal, you know. So I take stimulant medication, but from November last year till now, I've not taken them because I was trying to see whether I could. I'm learning, because I'm also very independent. I'm learning to, you know, how then do I master my own habits without necessarily depending on a medication.
I like that from November. Wow. Wow, it's pretty cool. It is. I guess.
But I like it. I like the stimulant medication, because once I take one, I feel like
you can conquer
this head of mine the volume goes down because it's a construction site up here. It's a construction site.
Wow. So what would you tell people who two things, people who feel embarrassed or ashamed to admit that they have a mental health problem? That's one. Two, I speak to the many suicides that we saw, and maybe still going on this year, but during the pandemic last year globally, the suicide rate just reported and unreported, and then unreported is more. And it's mostly young people, you know, 18 to 25. So you see, you're the research guy, you even have the proper demographic. So I need you to speak to those groups of people on camera.
So one, I think people who have mental health issues feel like that because that's how they've been made to feel. And it's a society that we live in that forces us to not be different and to not celebrate. But I want to tell them that there's power in authenticity, there's power in vulnerability. Once you come out and people more, by there I have schizoaffective, I have schizophrenia, I battle bipolar. People loses the power to use it against you. So they can't use it against you. Like for me, if today you start using ADHD against me, I won't even attack you. People who have empathy will are the ones who will attack you, because you cannot use something that somebody did not choose. But seek help, continue to seek help, find a community where you can belong to, get a psychologist, get a psychiatrist, work with them consistently, and tell your story, journal, write, come out and speak about it. There's freedom when you come out, and that darkness loses power over you when you come out. And you don't know what level of support you will find out here if you come out. On the issues of suicide, I'm part of the government's technical working group convened by the Ministry of Health to develop a mental health, a suicide prevention plan. And what we are doing is that we want to come out with a lot of messaging in the media and everywhere around, so that then people understand the triggers and the symptoms and the signs, so that then we are able to deal with this issue. But I want to add them that sometimes suicide is as a result of underlying mental health issues. So go and seek help and find help when you have maybe suicidal ideation or suicidal ideas. Continue seeking help and continue seeking help. But reach out. Don't be alone. Don't cut people off. Find a community where you belong to, whether it's a community, a church, a mosque, whatever it is, any community you are, find that community and be part of it. But above all else, whenever you feel like that's the end of the rope, stop and wait for the next day, because they say that if it is darkest, then maybe the dawn is soon coming. Asante.
What's the website?
The website is wellnesstribe.or.ke, where we say happy people, happy nation. That's our
Happy
theme.
People, happy nation. Happy program.
Exactly.
We are so happy to have you.
Asante sana. Asante sana. Asante sana.
Man, you've been real. I
sana.
can testify to your growth.
Asante sana.
Yeah.
But I read extensively before I reached here.
You did what?
I've read widely.
You've read?
I've read widely.
You've read widely.
Sana. About mental health?
Yes.
I read a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's really has helped me. And that's what I'm basically saying, that we all need to read about mental health, so that because mental health is like any other area of your life.
It is.
Yeah, so
it's
as you
true.
read all these things, read about mental health. Read about
There
cognitive
shouldn't be
science.
stigma to it.
Shouldn't be stigma.
No.
Read. What are the symptoms of bipolar? Read.
Yeah.
ADHD, read.
Yeah,
Read
acquaint
about all this.
yourself with
Exactly.
information.
Because you may have a child who's like that and you don't know.
And you don't know.
You may be actually one of them or you don't know.
Yeah.
But if you read, you say like, this looks like me or looks like somebody I know. But because we cannot diagnose, you refer them to a psychologist. Yeah.
Man, Odongo, thank you for coming. Liberating conversation right here. Yeah, thank you. And to you watching, thank you as well for making the time. Find us on social media, KTN homepages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And until next week, stay safe.
Gem Suites Hotel and Luxury Service Departments currently boasts 2 properties within Kenya. Gem Suites State House Crescent, set in the exclusive State House neighborhood, comprises of 34 well-appointed apartments, and Gem Suites Riverside, set up in a secure, private and tranquil setting in the upscale Riverside neighborhood with 98 luxuriously appointed full-service 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, superior hotel rooms and presidential penthouses.